I want to begin to start sharing with you tonight, first from a background that may seem a little unusual to you, from where I came from, and you may have to actually try to place yourself in the type of thinking that I was involved in at the time. I was born and raised as a Roman Catholic. My parents were Portuguese and Irish, and so there's a long lineage there of Roman Catholicism. So if you can possibly try tonight to put yourself in that kind of thinking, I think the presentation of the dream might help you. When I received this dream, to kind of skip ahead just a moment, I was not a Christian. I wasn't saved. I hadn't read really much of the Bible whatsoever, except a few passages on Sunday in church. We had a few passages that we would read occasionally. And in high school I read the Gospel of John. So I wasn't in a place where I knew what was happening in this dream. And this disturbed me greatly. And so you'll see tonight as this begins to unfold that God is an amazing God as to why He would reveal something to someone that knew nothing at all. And so I'm going to kind of ask you, try to put yourself in that place tonight, realizing that don't sit in here tonight for long as you're hearing the dream, knowing what you know right now, but try to put yourself, so to speak, in a place where you didn't know any of this, and it was being revealed to you in such a way that it was the first time that you ever saw or heard such things uttered. In early 1980, around August, I went to sleep this night, just about like any other night. I fell asleep, and it was one of those types of nights when you kind of can tell you're falling asleep. You kind of, drift off, and you're just about asleep. Just as soon as I fell into sleep, this dream began to start. It started with a very, very, very loud noise. Right at that moment of hearing this, I was given the ability, again, I'll share with you some things that seem to be very chronological in how this dream worked out. And yet, in some places, I can't tell you specific time frames because it was almost as though I was interjected into different situations without the understanding of time moving along. Some things were just very panoramic. It was just a wide, big picture that I saw. But at this point of the dream, I was given the opportunity to see kind of from the heavens looking down on the earth. And what I saw was that I was able to see, the globe was kind of out here like this, and I was able to see very clearly many cemeteries and graveyards. Then I was brought very close to many of these graveyards, and what I saw was a very unusual thing to me. It was that the ground was breaking open. Literally, the dirt was breaking open kind of violently, and people were coming out of the graves. I'll tell you that as a Catholic, I prayed many, many times that I believed in the resurrection of the dead. But I don't really believe at that point, in the dream especially, that I was persuaded that that would actually happen. I know now that that's what I saw. I saw dead people resurrected from the graves. Kind of a not just random, but kind of a categorized launching, so to speak, of these people out of the dirt. Again, it was very violent. It was almost as though the dirt was receiving a small explosion or something and breaking open. And I literally saw dirt flying. And I saw this all over the globe. It wasn't just in one area. It wasn't just in, say, the United States. It was all over. And when people would begin to come out, their appearance, two things about their appearance first astounded me. The first thing was that the clothes they were wearing seemed to be like a choir robe. They were kind of like a long dress, so to speak, a cloak almost hanging off them. But in the middle of the day, it was like those outfits that entertainers wear when they're under the lights, and the lights, key in on them, and the sequins kind of make the light just shoot off, and they glimmer. These people came out in the middle of the day glimmering. Their outfits and their person was brighter than the sun. I wish I could explain that to you, other than I could see the brightness of these people coming out. Men, although they had these robes on, appeared to be very, very masculine. I always used to think that, those robes I had to wear when I graduated from school kind of looked kind of feminine, But these things that these people were wearing were masculine, and yet when women were resurrected, they looked very feminine. Again, I'm going to give you the dream exactly as I saw it. Some things I wish sounded more exciting, and other things I wish were just a bit tamer, but I'm going to give it to you exactly as I saw it. These people that came out, it was difficult for me to explain this over the years. Older people would come out with the appearance that they were old, but they weren't old. You could tell that they had lived a full life, maybe 80 years, 75 years, something like that. But say, for instance, their hair that was lost was back again. They looked mature, but they didn't look aged. Okay? Young people, I saw a lot of young people resurrected, and although they looked very young, they weren't very young. There was a maturity about them. I wish, again, I could clearly define how this appeared during the dream. The position that I was in at this time didn't give me the allowance to understand these things because of the staunch Catholicism that my family and I had practiced. I had never heard of Protestant Christian practices. I had never been to a Protestant church. I had never experienced someone witnessing to me the gospel of Jesus Christ and the plan of salvation. I had never read the book of Revelation. And to be very, very frank with you, even to this day, it would have been a lot easier for my life if I would have never been given this dream. I wanted to just kind of do my thing and carry on with my life. I thought it was going just fine until this began to happen. So just to help you understand, I did not ask for this. I've never asked to see the Lord. I've never asked to see angels. I've never asked to have visions. Usually every time I get something like this, I end up getting in some sort of trouble. And so I don't really like the trouble that kind of follows you when God starts to show you things. The other thing that I want to make clear to you is when this was happening, I really didn't understand that it was God at first. And so just to have you understand where I came from, there was no desire for me to experience this dream. All of a sudden, the people that came out, they just disappeared. I wish I could tell you where I saw them go. I don't know. I don't know if they were taken and hidden somewhere. I don't know if they were taken in the clouds because I never saw them go up. I never saw them go away. They just vanished. Okay? One thing I can tell you is I did not see one person on planet Earth changed like we've read in the Bible where it says, the dead in Christ shall rise first, and those which are alive and remain shall be changed. I didn't see anybody at that point, when I saw these people come out of the grave, changed or get zapped out of planet Earth, meet the Lord in the clouds. I didn't see anything like that. Okay? Again, I need to tell you, I had never heard of a rapture. As a Catholic, second coming of Christ was not even a dogma of our church. We didn't practice the belief in a second literal coming of Jesus Christ. And so this all was very foreign to me. And as soon as these people disappeared, for a lack of words, wherever they went, mass hysteria began to hit the earth. People had the appearance of absolute despair, hysteria. There was pandemonium everywhere. There was mass chaos, lawlessness, and fear was working everywhere. I was able again to see in many quadrants of the earth, and there wasn't any one nation that was under this. All of the globe was experiencing this. It was a very, very unusual instance that happened. In the dream, I wasn't able always to perceive what was going on, and yet I was still struggling with my mind during the dream. I don't know if you've ever had dreams where you were dreaming things, but in your mind you were very much aware that you were dreaming, and it was almost kind of like you were two people. You know what I mean? It's like you were almost divided. I was seeing the dream happening, and yet in my mind I was really not wanting to be a part of this dream. But to be very frank with you, I had no choice as this dream was unfolding. And by the way, it lasted the whole night with the interruption at about 3 o'clock in the morning. I had no control to come out of this dream. As the mass pandemonium and despair began to permeate society, there was a very unusual event that happened. Television, telephone, radio, and this other unusual communication device I was able to see into many, many homes in the United States, these white boxes that were about this big that looked to be like televisions. And when I saw these, they were in nearly every single home in the U.S. And they would have words written across them, and occasionally it would almost look as though television was playing through them. All of those media devices were shut down for about a 2-week period. I know now that what I was seeing was personal computers in people's homes. In 1980, I've done some studies, by the way, about all the things I saw to see if, in fact, I was hearing something from God, because I'm not about to go on national television or around the globe and share this if it's incorrect. I have a ministry of my own right now, and I don't feel like jeopardizing what the Lord has established for the past 17 years. In 1980 and 81, there was less than 0.5% of American homes that had a computer in it. And so I saw these in homes just about everywhere. All these things were shut down. One of the things that was happening during this hysteria was many peoples were asking, where did these people go? What happened? And all the globe saw this event, or they experienced it afterwards. What I saw in people was that literally nearly everyone I experienced had a great look of despair and hopelessness upon their face. Everywhere I went, there was hopelessness. Nobody seemed to be happy about living. You know, I've never experienced that. I've been to a lot of public places where people are bummed out, not happy, not doing well, but not the globe in masses. I don't know, maybe you've seen that. I haven't. So this hysteria brought a complete hopelessness and total perplexity to just about everyone. The television communications were down for a period of time. This shutdown alarmed all of the peoples, and it lasted for about 2 weeks. Can you imagine briefly tonight all of your communications, your telephone, computers, television, and radio being shut down for a 2-week period of time? Can you imagine the hysteria? Can you imagine, you know, the inability for a supermarket to contact its suppliers to get more supplies, or gasoline, or transactions? I mean, it's amazing when you begin to see it kind of unfold the depth. This lasted about 2 weeks. Again, I want to remind you, I was not a prophecy studier or expert at this time when this vision came to me. I began to walk the streets in shock at the current events. The events are difficult to describe because lawlessness and fear was permeating society completely. After about 2 weeks of time, television and radio began to be back up and running. However, it was completely different than what was previously being broadcast. The broadcasts were being bombarded nearly everywhere, and they were depicting a soon-to-come new government and leadership. A man would be emerging to lead us. The man finally came on the scene, and he spoke with great eloquence. I wrote these things down exactly as I saw them. He spoke with great eloquence and charisma. He was soothing and promised answers to all current issues. This man was smooth and extremely convincing, able to solve nearly all problems. He was a consummate communicator, and he explained how this removal of people was God's judgment upon them. This rattled me in the dream. I did not understand his position. Let me tell you so you can kind of comprehend where I'm coming from. Not being a born-again Christian in the dream, when this man spoke, it began to convince me. It began to pull me in to the messages. I don't know if any of you have seen old films of Adolf Hitler speaking to the masses, but he had a demonic charisma about him that would literally pull the masses to him. That was nothing compared to what I saw. Nothing. He was able to rally a nation. This individual was rallying the globe. It was very frightening. Almost immediately, he began to communicate through large-screen televisions that were strategically placed everywhere the general populace met. Think back for me for just a few moments. 1980, 1981. Large screens televisions? No. Few pizza parlors had those projector televisions, you know, with the 3 different colors that would project an image, but large screen televisions weren't out, folks. Now, what was strange about this is that this man's speeches and directions for the whole world had to do with new times upon us as human beings, new directives for global peace, and the need to give up current citizenship for world citizenship.